The Miami Hurricanes lost 82-68 to number 10 Florida here at the Jacksonville Hoops Showdown. You know, it was a game where Miami just eventually just kind of ran out of gas and couldn't make enough runs or really get anything going offensively, only shooting 34% from the floor, couldn't knock down threes. This isn't a three-point shooting team, but couldn't really get anything going. The free throw percent was under 60, the turnovers just fouling a lot, just a lot of things that didn't go their way in this one. But, you know, Jay Lucas said in the press conference, just wrapped up with him, and, you know, he felt like he still feels like this is a good team, you know, and he knows that today didn't look good. And look, Florida coach Todd Golden said afterwards too, like he said, he feels like this is going to end up being a quality win for them on the resume. He feels like Miami's going to have a good team or has a good team, but yeah, tonight didn't go very well, you know. Now, Florida jumped out to an early lead. They're 9-2, a quick burst, and Jay calls timeout, and then Miami battled back into it. And that's kind of what happened throughout most of the first half. You know, Florida would look to be in a little bit of control, but the Miami guys do deserve a lot of credit. They had a little bit of a lead, 18-17, but then, you know, just kind of got away from it there at the end of the first half. And then the second half, again, got it to 44-41, and, you know, just kind of hanging in there, hanging around and showing some fight, some grit, even though shots weren't falling at a good percent or anything like that. But then eventually just Florida made some more shots, got on some big runs, you know, and led by double digits the rest of the way. But, you know, I think there's certainly things they've got to clean up and get better at. But I think my overall takeaway is just kind of the reaction that Jay had, that he's still confident in these guys. And look, I think there's a lot of pride on this team and still getting to know these guys. Like, I understand that, but just kind of knowing them, the little that I do, or being around them and covering all 4 of their games now to start the season, being there at media day practices, you know, and just kind of everything. Like, I think this team has a lot of fight in them, and they want to have a successful season. And, you know, I think a lot of guys are going to be discouraged by their own individual play today. And that's why I asked Coach Lucas afterwards about kind of the understanding of that, but also him and his staff, you know, just kind of building these guys back up, you know, giving them confidence moving forward. They certainly know what's coming up, you know, with that Thanksgiving showdown with BYU. And they know that. And, you know, so they're going to get ready for that. They've got some games before that, you know, that matchup there in Orlando, and also either they're going to play Dayton or Georgetown the next day. But, you know, they know what's coming up. And I just feel like with these guys, I think they are going to, you know, kind of bounce back and get to playing better and understanding. There's a lot to look at with the film here of how to get better on both ends of the floor, because certainly, you know, if they play like this, they are going to struggle. But look, Florida's a really good team and has a chance to have a really high-level season once again. And I think both of these teams are going to continue to improve throughout the season, but certainly Miami has to on both ends of the floor. All right, let's start offensively and why things were so difficult. Look, Florida had the front line, the size, it's very unique with what they have there. But I thought the things that were kind of popping up for Miami in the half court, just kind of watching them go through their sets, they were trying to get a lot of action stuff, a lot of pick and rolls, and they just weren't able to get a lot of good looks. And Coach did say he felt like they missed a lot of bunnies. They did miss close shots. They didn't shoot very well from inside the arc at all, and that's why they ended up with 34% shooting. So they've got to be able to finish a little bit better. But I think quality of shots will be important as they go back and watch through film. Either freeing guys open a little bit easier, or certainly, you know, this was a much different level of competition. So finishing through traffic and understanding like what's in front of them. And these guys, a lot of these guys have played, you know, high-level basketball against good opponents. It's just early on in the season. And I do want to make note of this too. Jay said it afterwards. I was honestly a little bit surprised too. And he said it too. Like, this was, it felt like 98% Florida fans here. You know, it was definitely a hostile environment, and shout out to the venue here and everybody that put it together. There was a lot of fans here, and Sunday night, they still filled the arena here at ViStar here, Veterans Memorial Arena. And so it was in an environment that this team saw for the first time, and how will they react to that? But going back offensively, I think being able to get a little bit more quality two-point shots, but also they've got to be able to find some three-point looks in here. And if that means like spotting up some guys or whatever that might be, I think they've got to be able to make sure they have that in the offense. They've got to be able to knock down some threes, because I think that will help, you know, some of their two-point shooting, which they want to kind of bank themselves on. This is not going to be, I don't envision this being a heavy three-point team just based on its personnel. But they've got to be able to shoot some, and maybe some spot-up opportunities. Some guys maybe need to, kind of essentially hunt for those, because I think it will help, help loosen things up there inside the paint, or getting some better looks inside the arc. Another thing offensively that I think is going to be key for this team, and it may be a little bit different than what Coach Lucas has said, because he wants Trey Donaldson to be a pass-first point guard and really working on that. And I do think that's important, but I think it's also important that Trey is a scorer still on this team. I think he can, or he does have certainly the potential, and he has showed it, to be able to score the ball. And I think he's got to be able to look for his shots as well. I think it's important for him to score because of his scoring ability and what he can bring to the team. So I think making sure that he's, getting good looks as well, I think is going to be important. I think too, as the season goes on, the staff is going to continue to learn about their team and trying to put guys in the right positions, or the best positions possible. And I think offensively, there's a lot still to work on there. And offensively, you can't have a game where, Malik is scoring over 22 points, which is good, but 8 for 23, that's not what you want to see there. And then True Washington was in double figures, and Trey hits a three late, he gets a shot late and he goes in double figures. But really, they just didn't get an offensive game or really a quality game out of Shelton Henderson there. I thought Ernest Uday struggled for most of the night on both ends of the floor. So when guys aren't contributing something offensively, it makes it difficult. And certainly they need some stuff off the bench as well. And then defensively tonight, the Gators present a lot of challenges with their speed in the backcourt, their size in the front court, shot-making ability all across the board with who they have on the floor. That did make things difficult. But defensively, again, Miami was able to have some moments. Some steals were showing up there, forcing some turnovers, and they did have some good moments where they really kind of disrupted what Florida wanted to do. And they didn't make it easy at times for Florida, but ultimately, they've got to, essentially making sure you're on top of those rebounds and making sure you're getting deflections and really creating some bad shot opportunities for Florida or for any opponent. So I think those things, I think they could still get better defensively. And if they're going to be a really good defensive team, they've got to just continue to make improvements and really make things really difficult for even good teams. So they can get better defensively. But, I did think that there were moments in this game that they showed good defensive effort and energy. And when I talk about effort and energy, it kind of goes back to what I said. I don't think this team is going to completely fall apart like last year's team did. That one had major concerns. I had major concerns very, very early on in the season. I don't have that with this team. I do agree. I think this team does have a chance to have a good season, and I expect them to bounce back and play better. I think this one can really resonate with them. And they, like Coach said, it's a learning experience. They know, essentially they've seen it now, what a high quality team is, and Miami's putting it all together, 13 new players, and so they do have upperclassmen that they're going to lean on. They've just got to be better and better all around on both ends of the floor. So looking forward to that, but definitely drop in the comments below, let me know what you thought about this game, what you think about this team. But thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, have a good rest of the day, and take care.